I was still doing a little jumping here and there, and the Vietnam veterans were having an anniversary. They wanted me to jump into the Pelican Stadium. And I've jumped into that stadium many a times. Yeah, that'll be no problem. The jump got postponed the weekend we were supposed to do it because of bad weather. Weather was moving in the day that we decided, or the day that it was rescheduled. But it was clear right over the stadium. I got in the airplane, went up to altitude, and I jumped about 2 miles away from the stadium, upwind. I flew backwards all the way to where I would normally set up above the stadium. And I got some really unusual winds. So rather than going into the stadium and taking a chance that I would hurt myself in the stadium because of the confined spaces, I chose a larger, what we call an out, across the street at Broadway at the beach. I set up over there, started coming in for my landing, and at about 150 feet above the ground, instead of flying due south, my parachute, flag, everything was going east. I looked up at my canopy to see what was going on. Did something break? As I watched the cells of my canopy start collapsing. Because when you put air on the side of the canopy, it needs air coming in the front to inflate it. But the canopy was flying sideways. The cells started to collapse. I've only got 7 cells. I had lost 2 on each side. I was still flying, still trying to get the parachute to come around into the wind, and 3 lonely trees out in the middle of this big wide open space were standing there looking at me, and I'm looking at them, trying to get away from them. There was a little bit of space between them, and I thought, I can do this. God help me put this thing between those trees. Thought I had it made. Next thing I knew, I'm watching my parachute fly down in front of me. My parachute beat me to the ground. I survived approximately a 40-foot drop. Landed on my pelvis. At first, I wasn't sure if that's what it felt like to be dead or not. I rolled over and went to stand up, and I felt a pain in my hip, and I thought that I had broken my leg, broken the top of my pelvis. I looked up at the stadium, and I could see the people in the top rows looking towards me. You could see the faces all staring. I managed to get up on both feet, only putting pressure on the one leg, and I waved to the crowd. Yeah, I'm good. Pretty soon a golf cart from out of the stadium came over, and the guy said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Not really." He said, "Do you need an ambulance?" I said, "Yeah, probably." He said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Get me out of this parachute because they'll cut it off." We got out of the parachute. I said, "Help me get out of the jumpsuit because they'll cut that off too." Well, by the time the ambulance finally made it there, my entire ground crew, including my wife, came over. Everybody was extremely worried that I didn't make it into the stadium. And the ambulance people pulled up and they said, "Who's injured?" Because we were all standing there talking. And they all pointed at me. They said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "There's something bad wrong in my hip. I can't put any weight on it." They wanted me to sit down. They wanted to put a brace around my neck. And so I said, "No, I'll go to the hospital on my own." "We need to take you in the ambulance." I said, "No, I'll go on my own." Finally signed a release. They left. My wife carried me to the hospital. They x-rayed me. They checked me all over. "Everything's good, Mr. Lynn. We can't find anything wrong." put me in a wheelchair. She took me home, got out of the truck, and I couldn't stand up. The weather I told you was coming in started pouring rain down. Sandy couldn't pick me up. I crawled to the steps, tried to crawl. I said, "Get the wagon out of the back of the truck." She pulled the wagon out of the back of the truck. I got on the wagon, she pulled me to the steps. Not far, but at least I was a little bit closer to the house. We're both drenched. Trying to figure out how to get up the steps. I figured out that I could crawl and it didn't hurt. I got my hands up a couple of steps, got one knee up, went to bring the other knee up, and I couldn't crawl up the steps. I couldn't lift my leg 7.5 or 8 inches to go up each step. So she got in the back of my work truck, got out a block of wood that was 4 inches high. I could get up on that and then get up on the next step. We did that all the way in to the house. And I'm thinking to myself, my neighbors are looking out the window, looking at us, rolling around in the rain, thinking, boy, Jamie, tide going on tonight. Well, it was the 4th of July weekend. I think it was a Thursday night, if I'm not mistaken. And I couldn't get in to see a doctor until Tuesday. They took me to a physical therapist. He x-rayed me. He said, "I can't find anything wrong. You probably just bruised it really bad. Just to be sure, we'll send you for an MRI." The MRI revealed that I had cracked my pelvis, and I had not yet talked to the doctor. I kept asking the technicians what was wrong. They wouldn't tell me. So they finally called my doctor after they did a CAT scan on top of the MRI. And the doctor said, "Go ahead and tell him what's wrong." They told me, "Don't put any weight on that leg. I see the doctor gave you a crutch or a pair of crutches." And I said, "No, I borrowed the crutches off my neighbor." Well, I had promised Ronald that I would work in the kitchen with him for that weekend. And I needed to heal so that I could work that weekend. And I made that weekend. I wasn't 100%, but I gave God all I had. Due to the power of prayer, God made it possible for me to serve that weekend. The next incident that I had was a bus falling on me. April the 13th of 2017. It wasn't a Friday, it was a Thursday. I don't make too many plans on Thursday. I remember watching the jack fall over and the bus come down on me, and then everything kind of went to a brownish color, and I was out. The next thing I heard was my boss telling the 911 operator that he didn't see any movement, couldn't detect any breathing. He thought I was dead. I heard that and I started wiggling my hand. I'm not gone yet, or at least I don't think I am. He said, "Wait a minute, I see some movement." Shortly after that, a big fire truck rolled up. Female voice came up to the side of the bus, started reassuring me that they were going to get me out. My boss said, "I've already got the bus up off of him." He'd gone inside, started the bus up, and raised the front end up where the weight was off of me. Before he raised me up, after the accident, I went back and checked because I was curious. I was 5.5 inches thick. That bus only has 5.5 inches from the bottom of the floor to the dirt that I was laying on. Piece of cardboard. I told the girl, I said, grab a hold of the cardboard and pull me out. She said, oh, we got jacks coming. I said, no, just grab a hold of the cardboard and pull me out. The weight of the bus is off of me. So they did that. They rolled me over. I had a punctured lung on my left side. They couldn't hear any oxygen or any air coming into my lung, so they put a needle in my chest and reinflated my lung. They worked on me for a while, and I remember the one EMT saying, we gotta go now. So they loaded me in the ambulance, and we headed down the road. As we were traveling north on 31, there's a bridge that crosses over Rivers Avenue, and it's right by the Longbeard's restaurant. And I looked at the ambulance driver and I said, we must be at Longbeard's. He said, how do you know where we're at? I said, I travel this road a lot, and I know the bump that this bridge has got. The driver of the ambulance says, I'll try to slow down. I said, yeah, you got 3 more bridges coming up. They asked me if I'd ever had any heart problems, and I told them I was on high blood pressure and high cholesterol medicine. They said, have you had a heart attack? I said, no. You're having one now. I didn't know. In my mind, I felt very calm. I felt like God was right there with me, and everything was going to be fine. A lot of what happened after that, I remember being in the trauma center. They asked me if I cared if they cut my pants off. I said, no, go ahead, they're rentals. But don't cut my boots. They even unlaced my shoes and took my socks off. They didn't cut them. They threw everything in a pile, put it in a bag. My wife has filled me in on a lot of the things that happened between her talking to the nurses and the people that attended to me. I had so many angels around me that day. If my boss had not been in the bus and known exactly what to do to get the bus off of me and at least get one lung functioning, I wouldn't be here today. If the fire truck hadn't been on the way back from a call, the response time would have probably been twice as long. But they were on their way back, and all they had to do was make a different turn and come right to me. The same company that would have sent the ambulance, their ambulance, was at the hospital from the event that they had just attended. Surfside's ambulance was on the way back from a hospital drop-off, and they were right at the end of 31 where 544 comes together. So they were right on top of me. They responded quickly. Or I might not have get the other lung functioning and been able to further my recovery. En route to the hospital, a heart doctor that was leaving for the day, overheard radio conversations about a possible heart attack coming in. He waited over 3 hours to put 2 stents in my heart. He was on his way home. We were told that of all the crush accidents that happen in this tourist area with motorhomes and people changing tires and working on their motorhomes, I'm the only person that has ever been crushed as severe as I was that walked out of the hospital. My wife was told that I would be there for 3 months or more. The doctors wouldn't give her any kind of positive indication that I was going to be okay for at least 3 days. The very next morning, I remember waking up. I felt cold. I looked over at my wife, and all of a sudden, I felt this warmth come through my body. I don't know how to describe it. The sun was starting to come up. She started reading me some of the responses that she was getting on Facebook, the prayers from all of you, prayers from people up north where we used to live. Steve even put me on the prayer list in Tanzania. I had prayers come in from everywhere, and I could feel that power of prayer. It is so hard to describe, but so easy to say. The power of prayer brought me back. When I felt that, I looked at my wife. The sun was coming up and starting to shine through the window. And I said, I'm going to be okay. We knew that I was going to be okay because God was taking care of me. A day or two later, the 6 trauma doctors come marching into my room. Hey, Mr. Lynn, how you doing? I said, I'm doing okay. Cough, cough, cough. Now, if you've ever broken a rib, you know it hurts. I'm not sure how many we counted, 20 some odd breaks. Most of my ribs were broken. It's easier to count the ones that weren't. The ones that were broken in at least 2 places, if not 3. Breathing hurt. Coughing was excruciating. But they wanted me to cough to get the fluid out of my lungs. You know, these 3 doctors wanted to set me up. And immediately my nurse that happened to be in the room, thank God, there's an angel again. She says, you can't set this man up. They looked at her and said, we want him to set up. We need to get him up and around. She says, you can't set this man up. And they're looking at her like, who are you to tell us what we can't do? And she took all 6 doctors out to the hallway. Sandy and I were looking at each other like, what just happened? She came back in, she says, Mr. Lynn, they almost killed you. She said, you have a rod from your groin all the way up to your heart with a pacemaker on the end of it. If they would have set you up, you'd be dead.